Ladies and gentlemen, big hairy news.
Hey, kia ora koutou, e te whānau. Welcome back to another edition of Big Hairy News. Kia ora, Chewy.
Kia ora, Pat. How are we doing?
I'm doing all right. Have you got a coloured light behind you? It looks like you've got kind of a blue hue behind you.
That is
like
correct.
It is correct, because
Yes.
you're kind of matching in with the wavy patterns at the top and bottom corner as well. So
That might
there
be
is a
on
blue
purpose, Pat.
hue. Oh, there you go. A good message? Was that a good message that came in then? Are we going to share the message with everyone?
You lefty cucks need to shut your mouth. Who's been giving out my phone number? Oh, no, it's
That's
from
my
Dad.
wife. She still means that. Kia ora whānau. Hope you're all doing well. We're doing well. We're getting along here. It's going to be a bit of a fun old show. I have to say, there is a new podcast. I don't know the name of the podcast. We'll have a look at it though. Being run out of stuff by Mr. Lloyd Burr, and he had Qiulae Wong on having a talk about stuff, and she said some really interesting things. Like when we spoke to her, we were like, yeah, we don't vibe with you because you sit in the middle. And that means if you sit in the middle, you might support some of the policies we don't like. But when she was talking down on this podcast, you're like, you could never vote with them. And one of the more interesting things that Lloyd did with her was say, how do you rate Christopher Luxon? How do you rate Winston Peters? And it was there's some interesting insights.
Okay.
So I'm quite excited to play that. Also, of course, GDP apparently, if you listen to TVNZ, is going amazing at 0.2%. What do they say? Bouncing back or
Fucking 0.2.
yeah, it was very straight. I'll play it for you in a sec. We'll do that as our first story. But the introduction from the host is like, it's doing well. And it's like everyone else is going, it's flat. It's flatlining. It's not what we were promised. It's not what this government promised us. And as Chewy, you said before we started, this is a retrospective thing. Imagine what GDP is going to be in the next quarter, looking back at this fuel crisis and war in Iran. Thanks, Uncle Donald. We'll have a look at that as well as Kieran and theBISH on the clean car discount and some other bits and bobs as well. There's a story on all channels as well about the price of fuel, what's happening at the moment. So we might slip that in with the GDP stuff as well. Sorry, Chewy, you were about to say something and I interrupted you so rudely.
I'm going to try and derail the show almost immediately with some boring war news. But I think, Pat, that you're going to find this interesting. I think our listeners are going to find it interesting. Obviously, with the Jeffrey Epstein Memorial kerfuffle going on and America being involved, there's lots of aircraft carriers around. Right,
Yes.
They love their aircraft carriers. One of them is the Gerald R. Ford, which is one of their newest ones, and it's has been on a shakedown cruise, which is the first cruise. It generally lasts about 6 months. You kind of just test the ship, see what's going right and what's going
Look for the
wrong.
leaks. Look for which beds
all
creak.
of that good stuff. 6 months away from home, easy money.
Yep.
So they're currently in month 11 of their 6-month tour. Because Trump keeps doing dumb shit. Now, the Gerald R. Ford has already had a massive sewage leak, which is great in a ship. That's exactly what you want. A, it's a leak, and B, it's made of poo. And it's just withdrawn from where it was off the coast of Israel to Crete because its laundry caught fire.
Oh, worst thing on a
And
boat, you
that
reckon?
fire-
Fire's worst thing on a boat?
Fire's also not good on a boat. It raged for 30 hours. It started in their laundry, and it burned 600 beds. Wow. Now, on one of these aircraft carriers, I'm not exactly sure how many men and women are on the Gerald R. Ford, but an aircraft carrier of
Women?
that size.
Women?
Yeah,
at sea?
women and well, up until when Pete Hegseth finds out where they are. So yeah, 600 beds. Aircraft carrier like this will have 1,500 to 2,000 people on it, easy. So where do you sleep when your bed's caught fire? Apparently on the flight deck.
Oh, gosh.
And now they're thinking, maybe this was an inside job. Maybe our sailors are so pissed off about being away from home for almost a solid year on a ship that doesn't work real good, that they may have set the fire in the laundry. Now, none of that has been proven.
$13 billion warship, says Adam DeGreen. $13 billion. Wow, that's a penny or two. Defeated by laundry. Iran didn't have to do anything. Good grief.
Can you just imagine somebody going, oh, fuck this shit, and just setting fire to
everything?
A little boat full of laundry. Just so you can go to Crete, sleep on a real bed, and probably hit the bars pretty hard, I would imagine. But yes, it's going well for the US Navy.
I guess I'm going to say a huge thanks. Oh, that's not the right page. A huge thanks to all of our lovely patrons who have been with us through thick and through thin. I'm the thick, Chewy is the thin. That's how it kind of rolls out. But you've stuck through it through both of us. And also to lovely people. I think there's a couple of new orders in that we haven't sent out yet, but most orders, probably all bar 2 or 3, were on couriers yesterday and stuff. I know I haven't been good at communicating with you as to when to expect your product, but I do have courier tickets here with numbers on. I can track them, so I apologize about the communication pointers, but just so you know, there's stuff on the way. And just remember as well, we're doing a bit of a special at the moment. Speaking of $13 billion boats, that's about what our ferries are supposed to cost. So we've got our Nicky No Boats merch at the moment, which is 15% off. Anything Nicky No Boats is 15% off with the code No Boats at the checkout. Hoodies, t-shirts, right there. See those beautiful t-shirts. We've got
stickers,
enamels, stickers, and
stickers that can be stuck on
mugs.
We're all mugs for voting for these clowns.
They're all 15% off. Anything Nicky No Boats in the merch store is 15% off. And of course, there's all of our other beautiful stuff in there as well. There's a Chewy Fufu enamel, should you want to actually have a little man exploding on your place of privilege. That's not a metaphor. It's nothing like that. At any stage, you can have a little man exploding on you. There you go. And probably, what's the date? It's the 19th. I think by the 25th, we're going to get our new round of stickers, which includes, funnily enough, some BHN stickers, which we've never had, which is really dumb.
Do you know how many times
I know.
they've have talked about that? It's like,
yeah.
Oh, we've got all of these great merch, none of it which mentions the show that it's from.
No BHN stickers. So BHN stickers are coming. We've got Ditch the Prick stickers coming as well. And I think we've got something else. If the left votes, the left wins, stickers coming as well, which will be a t-shirt in the next couple of weeks. Mm-hmm. So there we go, Whānau. We are up and we are running. Have we teased everything? Qiulae, Kieran and theBISH. Yep, we've teased everything. So let's get into this conversation around the I'm trying to find the page that I had you. There it is there. Let's get into the conversation around the GDP. And there has been an increase in the GDP. The economy is technically growing. It's just growing at a snail's pace. Not that this is Melissa Stokes. Melissa Stokes, I'm pretty sure. Not that Melissa Stokes is going to give you any kind of impression that it's growing slowly. She thinks it's bloody marvellous.
Meanwhile, latest figures show the economy is fighting back. The GDP figure for the December quarter rose, but by just 0.2%. That's lower than the Reserve Bank was predicting. It follows the trend from the lowest point in June last year, economic activity heading back up. But given what's happened since the Iran conflict, leading to a global energy crisis, the economy is now facing new challenges it wasn't 3 months ago.
That's for sure.
Our business correspondent, Jason Walls.
Can I say as well, the one news tonight, because we're watching One News, had like, I don't think it's wrong to have this at the start because it's to do with the Iran conflict, but it was like they had 4 live people, like as in broadcasting live, in 4 different centres around New Zealand talking about their local petrol price. That's how much of a story this is at the moment, the resource that these news agencies are putting, and rightfully so. This is a big story. It was amazing, though, that basically 4 reporters were all standing outside petrol stations at different parts of the country pointing over their shoulder. It just goes to show this is a big story and it is really beginning to impact. There's multiple, and Dunedin there was one, multiple reports of petrol stations running out of fuel, not because we don't have the reserves back at home base, but because people are coming in and filling up everything and drying the tank out before the next lot can turn out. But it's happening. It is happening.
Explains.
This Queenstown tourism hotspot riding high.
We're back to the same volumes that we saw before COVID.
GDP data for the final quarter of last year showing exactly why. Overseas visitor spend during that period was up almost 8%. Skyline expecting that growth to continue, spending $300 million on the redevelopment of its venue.
People see us investing in this and, putting a large financial commitment in. It encourages others to do the same.
Although tourism-relating spending is up, today's 0.2% GDP increase is below the expectations of all major banks as well as the Reserve Bank.
0.2% growth is not the economic recovery that Christopher Luxon promised New Zealanders, and it's quite a pitiful indictment on the government's efforts.
Apart from the commentary there by Barb, Chewy, don't you love cicadas like that? Isn't it? It just makes me think about hot, warm weather. Not a hot, warm economy, though. A tepid, cool, lukewarm economy. That's what we're looking at right now.
The construction sector taking a noticeable hit, shrinking by $61 million over the quarter.
Consents have slowed. Big projects and some medium-sized projects have come to an end in the market, and they just aren't being replaced as quickly as they need to be.
All up, New Zealand's GDP grew by 1.3% last year, taking the size of our economy to $445 billion.
The economy was relatively weak heading into the end of 2025.
Someone said of Kim Mundi, talking about this, I said in the chat earlier, it looked like that she's in a hostage video trying to speak positively of the economy, according to one of the chatters that flew past.
I mean, we did still grow, and there are some pockets of strength that we're seeing, but overall, we sort of characterised it as a bit of a limp into 2026.
Today's figures...
fighting back. A limp, fair enough.
Only covers the final quarter of last year, meaning they don't capture the economic fallout from the Iran war.
I'll just be
So it's
frank.
already gone.
That's very backward-looking data. We are now in a new world.
Questions now about what happens next.
What we can say, based on the information that I've received, is that across a range of even very worst-case scenarios, we expect the economy will keep growing over the coming year. The question is how much slower than it might have been.
Back in Queenstown, a sense of optimism.
New Zealand's still very attractive. It is a long way away.
With this current quarter's GDP not out until mid-June, Kiwis now face a long wait to assess the war's economic fallout.
Jason's with
There you go. We won't have a chat with Jason there. True. Someone said to me today, actually, how is this fuel stuff going to impact tourism? And I'm like, well, probably
Exactly what I was going to say.
Well, but probably not much, because if they're staying at home, they're getting increases in Australia or America or Japan in their petrol prices. And if you're touring New Zealand, you can probably afford another 20% in fuel, probably. I don't know if it'll make a big difference there. But, Sir, you were going to say something about it as well?
Oh, I was going to say, airfares, airline fuel costs will go through the roof.
Yeah, airfares for sure.
Airfares will go through the roof.
Yeah.
If you're renting a camper van and driving around, that's more expensive now. If you're from Europe, where you would usually transit through Dubai or Qatar and that sort of thing, are you really looking forward to doing that? Or are you maybe like, nobody's shot down an airliner for a while, I don't want to be mine? There
were some examples on the news tonight about schools in New Zealand cancelling international travel because they had to go through the Middle East. And so there's all these students who have lost 2/3 of their fees because they're choosing to pull out rather than having it cancelled, so they don't get all their their airfares back. So yeah, totally.
So my partner has to go back to the UK in October. I'm staying here, fam, because the election is more important
than your partner. Come on, dude, that's a bit light. Come on.
It is. Okay. It is, though. I have to be here. And yeah, it's the sort of thing that she's going to have to go down to the holiday booking house and sort of go, cool, so I need to get to the UK and I don't want to go through the US.
Singapore then,
and I don't want to go through the Middle East. So what have you got left? You know, it's a consideration.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, so GDP 0.2, it's not shrinking. Let's look at some positives. It's not shrinking. Will it shrink in June? Perhaps. It's not shrinking today, so I guess that is a win. We are being a bit flippant about the small size of it, but it's not the size that matters, and we don't focus on the frickin' targets. We know that it's an increase of 0.2%. I think, though, obviously one of the other big stories that runs right alongside this one is what's happening with the fuel. As I said, TVNZ, they had an opportunity to have about 1 million people around the country sharing the prices on news. And I think even though this is not about the GDP, it's probably worth having a look at a story, Qiulae, also, that is tied into the GDP, especially next time around, which was the Iran conflict and what's going to happen with the GDP. I mean, like, to be honest, if the next GDP is 0.0, that would probably be a win with what's going on at the moment, and the economy is shrinking.
There's no relief in sight as prices at the pump continue to skyrocket. The government today ruling out a blanket cut to the fuel tanks, but Finance Minister Nicola Willis says other more
because they can't afford to. They need as much revenue as possible.
Targeted measures could be introduced with the cost of living expected to get worse. May Kieran reports.
The pinch at the pump really starting to hurt. Prices continuing to push up.
We've got to grin and bear it. There's no other choice.
No, there are.
Is going very bad.
The prices are just...
I think this is part of the point. There are other choices, aren't there? That's the point. Even if you're not able to, be privileged enough, if that's the right word, to go and purchase an EV, but there are still other choices. There's public transport, Shanks's pony, other things depending on who you are and where you live. So yeah, let's be honest and say, yes, there are other choices. Sometimes choices aren't always better, though. There might be worse choices for example, convenience, meaning walking to a bus, but better for your pocket. So let's not say there aren't any other choices, because there clearly are.
It's way too high.
Motorists hunting for the best deal, flocking to fuel comparison app Gatsby.
Average weekly sessions went from about 500,000 to 1 million, and then this week they're 2 million.
Since the Iran war started, the average price of petrol has gone up by almost 50 cents to more than $3 a litre, adding about $23 for a full tank. Diesel has risen around 72 cents to more than $2.60, adding around $36 for a full tank. All adding to cost of living pressures. The Treasury predicting a worst case scenario of inflation reaching 3.7% this year.
That's too high for my liking, but it's lower than Australia has today.
While some targeted relief may be on the way, the government says cutting the fuel tax is not appropriate.
Dramatically reducing prices in a way that would encourage people to use more of something would not necessarily be prudent.
Tankers have been unable to safely sail the Hormuz Strait. Around 80% of crude oil that normally passes through is destined for Asian refineries like those in Singapore and South Korea. The refined fuel is then brought here and stored at sites like Marsden Point.
In terms of our jet storage capacity, that's roughly enough for about 35,000 one-way flights between Auckland and Wellington, which is a lot. Around about 1.5 million average car fills, or around 1 million diesel SUV fills.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, those numbers sound big as well, though, Qiulae, but, what is there, 5 million cars in New Zealand? Like, this is like what we were talking about last night. $25 million into the health system is a third of what we spend every single day. Like, it sounds impressive saying 1.5 million car fills, but if we've got 5 million cars, that means 2/3 of the cars will miss out going along that path. Nicola Willis also did say some stuff today, and I wanted to find that as well, to not drag it out. Here it is here. and because she was talking about instructing Treasury on bringing that targeted relief, I don't think we've ever have yet got that, what the targeted relief would be, but we did get, I'm instructing Treasury to look at it using the IRD. Or I'm instructing, no, sorry, I think it might be I'm instructing the IRD to look at it. So that implies things like working for families and stuff, which still Chewy goes, well, what if you're struggling but you don't have kids? Working for family is only on people who have got kids that are under 18. That won't help, for example, the Chewy household if the Chewy household needed the help. So that is somewhat targeted, but still is, when you start to pick a way that IRD can do it, then that's still going to leave out some people who need it. If you just do it for everybody, then everybody gets it, especially those who are in need.
I had a thought just as we were playing through this, that I think they have an option they haven't considered yet. And I'd love to ask someone that knows a little bit closer to it, like a genuine question. I know that the government has been sort of signalling that road user charges for all passenger vehicles are coming.
Yep.
Right? So I wonder how advanced that work is, that they could move it up.
Yeah.
Like, because that's the question, right? Is that they're paying the fuel excise tax through buying the fuel. We don't want to take that tax away because we need it for building that road in Northland. But is taking the tax off the fuel and moving the burden onto road user charges ahead of schedule potentially a way that they could shuffle this?
And what about, what do they call it? Congestion charges. Where is that at the moment? Could that be looked at? Is that a way? I know, like, for example, when London brought it in, they saw the traffic going into central London drop off dramatically, other than it was free for some classes like EVs. They didn't have a congestion charge. Would a congestion charge now get people out of their cars into public transport, thus saving petrol in the long run as well?
Yep. So these things that we've like, what's the phrase? Never waste a good crisis. Wouldn't this be smart politics to go, hey, look, here's our reaction to this fuel crisis. We know people are hurting. We don't want to do that. We've taken tax off petrol, big fucking capital letters. Road user charges on all passenger vehicles, congestion charges in our major cities. We want to encourage you onto public transport. And we've done a package of, like we did for COVID, half-price public transport till the end of the year.
Yeah, or free. I was going to say free. We talked about this last night. The levers they could pull immediately, which would help everybody who needs help, and some who don't, but everyone who does need help, would be excise tax off fuel. Could pull that lever tonight for tomorrow. So, tomorrow, the next day. Free public transport, you could pull that lever tonight. But the whole conversation around targeting, as we've said before, my concern is they'll keep saying that, and it'll be like, we're working on it. And then, it's election time. It would be wrong to bring something in only 2 months out from the election. But let's have a listen to what Ms. Willis and Ms. Luxon had to say today about the Iran conflict, and obviously particularly talking about fuel and petrol and oil, and relate that back to the GDP of 0.2% increase as well.
We're preparing for the worst case scenario. That's the Prime Minister's message as the Iran conflict escalates, sending oil prices climbing. Israel and Iran are now trading attacks on previously untouched fuel facilities in the Middle East. New Zealand's looking at different options to secure petrol supply and manage costs. But the government's warning things could get worse before they get better. Ed O'Driscoll kicks us off tonight.
The world's largest natural gas field bombed by Israel, the biggest attack on Iran's energy production in nearly 3 weeks of war, a new front in a spiralling conflict. Tehran hitting back, firing missiles at a refinery in Qatar and other Gulf state sites.
The fuel, energy and gas facilities at the source of the attack will be set ablaze and reduced to ashes at the earliest opportunity.
Whoa. The escalation sent global oil prices soaring to $110 a barrel, prompting this warning about pain at the pump.
Things could get worse before they actually get better.
The government now preparing for the worst case.
I don't want to be too pedantic because we want honesty from our politicians, but Okay, so one critique. Okay, so he workshopped this before they went out. Things could get worse before they get better. That's implying tomorrow it might be more expensive, but maybe not. Isn't the answer? I mean, shouldn't the Prime Minister have said, maybe I'm being a little bit here, shouldn't he have said things are going to get worse before they get better? Because that might implies, oh, tomorrow might be the same. And it might say the same. We all know it's not going to. So if we're going to be honest as politicians, and we are going to say hard choices, hard times, then be properly honest. This sucks, guys. This is going to get worse, and it will continue to get worse until this conflict in the Middle East is sorted out.
Yeah, I think you've overlooked one very key point here.
That he's not very good at this?
Luxon is not very good at it. He is a very stupid man. These guys could have spent the last week or so trying to get ahead of this, trying to be seen as being prudent and good planners, and trying to buy some of that societal buy-in that we've seen in other crises. But they've been trying to play it as business as usual. Don't worry, more fuel's on the way. And we all knew that the price was going to go up and up and up and up, and there was a problem just around the corner. You know, and I think that whole sort of, don't worry about it, guys. While the house is sort of getting a little bit smoky, and it's
and let me
the door's a little bit warm.
I'll make a prediction, right? We do not have 50 days worth of fuel. We don't, because people are buying 2 and 3 lots of fuel per visit at the moment, and will continue to do so until some official restrictions get put in place. I don't believe we should count out from when they first said that, because we must be on day 3 by now. We should count out what 50 days would be and see how close they are, because I don't think we've got 50. I think the way that people are now emptying tanks at petrol stations, we will not make it to 50. My wife tonight said I should go fill up the car, and I'm like, yeah, might be a terrible idea. Get it filled up now, and then I just don't. But currently her car is half full. Doesn't need to fill it up, but she probably will, because tomorrow it might be $4 a litre. So, and if everyone else is doing that, it won't last for 50 days. I just think it won't. But then again, maybe the flip side of that is people will start getting hit hard in the pocket, which they already are. Then they'll buy less than 3 weeks from now, and maybe it will. But I don't think so. What we're seeing at the moment, the trend at the moment is it won't, certainly.
There still hasn't been a press conference that says, New Zealand, you need to chill out. You need to make plans. You need to cut your car trips now so we can stretch what we know that we have. Because this extra allocation that we've got outside of the ships that are on the way now, that the holdings that are in Singapore and South Korea, they are effectively IOUs. You know, and all it takes is this to get a little bit worse, and they're like, "Oh, there's been a problem with your fuel. We've kept it for ourselves."
Yeah, and that's true. I heard
we'll sort you out on the flip side. It's fine.
I heard someone, I can't remember who it was, but there was a commentator in the New Zealand ecosphere the other day talking about, they used a phrase and it basically said to renege on the contract. I can't remember what the phrase was, and that's actually a concern. But look, we stopped here because we were going to say it is going to get worse. Luxon's saying it might get worse. Let's continue on the story.
And now preparing for the worst case scenario, planning for disruption to last 8 to 12 weeks.
New Zealand does retain sufficient levels of fuel for at least the next 7 weeks.
So, but this may last 8 to 12 weeks. So no fuel for after 7 weeks. So no fuel for a month and a half. Is that what we're saying? That's kind of what they're hinting at now.
However, we need to prepare for the possibility of future fuel supplies being disrupted.
She outlined 3 actions: stepping up diplomatic talks with our overseas partners to secure alternative sources of refined fuel amid concerns that our main suppliers, Singapore and South Korea, could cut production, reviewing New Zealand's fuel specifications, potentially easing quality standards so importers can buy from a wider range of sellers, and finally activating parts of the National Fuel Plan, which would prioritise supply for those who need it the most.
Even if there was a ceasefire tomorrow, it just takes a while for the system.
Can I just offer something here as well, right? And this again is opinion based. I don't know this for truth. Chewie, what you just said is true, right? They've tried to spend as much of the last week basically saying, there are issues, but we're fine. There are issues, but we're fine. There are issues, but we're fine. For them to now go, this may not be fine, I wonder if that means it's actually really bad, because this is their version of, if before when we all knew it was bad, it was, there are issues, but it'll be fine. And we thought, Hallie, we're not thinking that. And now, if they're now saying, well, there's some problems here, what does it really mean? Like, how far away from actual no fuel are we? Is this their panic stations conversation? Because that's the kind of jump they've gone from, there are issues, but it'll be fine, to be prepared for the worst case scenario. You know what I mean? Like, what does this actually mean in the real world as opposed to in political speak?
Here's what I thought about. If these guys, and I mean this, I deeply, deeply mean this. If these guys were at the wheel for COVID, thousands would have died.
Yeah, probably 20,000.
The crisis management skills are non-existent. Like, this is just not how you deal with preparing a group of people for bad news, coming up with a joint plan and executing that plan. Like, if they went a little bit more, hey, it's not business as usual, this could get really bad and we need to be prepared for it. And if they came out the other side, just like with COVID, people go, oh, we probably didn't need to do that. Why did we do that? Well, we've got a huge amount of petrol left. So, you know, that's the downside. We have fuel.
All right, let's keep going with our hairless leader.
There was a ceasefire tomorrow. It just takes a while for the system to revert back to normalcy.
Fuel companies will meet with the finance minister tomorrow, with twice weekly updates on the situation starting Monday. And as some gas stations run dry, the message to drivers is,
we've got plenty of fuel. That's the one thing that we do know. And we've got plenty on the water. We don't need to panic buy.
But the cost of filling up is still heading in one direction, and the AA warns it may climb higher.
It could. We're yet to see it. It's been less than 24 hours since those attacks occurred. It's how they escalate and the severity of them, and what they target will ultimately determine where prices go.
We live in challenging times.
At first, Donald Trump distanced himself from the strike on Iran's gas field, but then threatened to blow it up if Iran strikes Qatar again, the world's fuel consumers caught in the crossfire. Ed O'Driscoll, One News.
There you go, Chewie. So 0.2% economy, pretty stagnant at the moment, likely to go backwards at the next report, and a huge part of it can be laid in the lap of Donald J. Trump.
I think that the AA dude, like, the AA dude's saying the same thing the government is doing, and I think it's the wrong message.
I agree with you.
Yeah, like, oh, we've got plenty of fuel. And I get what he's trying to say. We've got plenty of fuel, so you don't need to panic buy. It's not so much the amount of fuel that people are panicking about at the moment. It's the price. That's why they're filling up their cars, because they're seeing the price of fuel go up literally every 6 hours. So you might as well grab fuel now. It's probably going to be the cheapest that it's going to be for weeks, as far as we know.
But the messaging. Yeah, but the messaging's wrong. We don't have plenty of fuel. We've got maximum 47 days of fuel. Like, if this was a zombie apocalypse, right, and that was the end of our fuel, like after 47 days there was going to be no more fuel, we wouldn't be going, plenty of fuel. We'd be going, holy shit, if there's none. And at the moment, if they're saying that this conflict, which they have no reason to say this, but they're talking about 8 to 12 weeks. And as you say, Chewie, when the conflict is over, then how about all the oil fields that are now destroyed? They won't just start pumping out fuel again the next day. Carless days, no fuel, expensive fuel, more heavily laden fuel with sulfur coming through. It just, I guess the AA guy, as you are saying, is kind of going, he's trying to say there's plenty of fuel, so don't bulk buy. But the truth is, we may not have enough fuel to go around in several weeks, don't bulk buy. And why aren't the petrol stations being mandated to do this. I go into the supermarket sometimes and there's a special and it says maximum 2 per customer. And so I can only put 2 through the trolley. Yes, my wife can get 2 as well, but that's all I can do. If they said maximum 1 fill up, no jerry cans per customer, then yes, I could fill up and so could my wife, but the jerry cans have to stay out. You know what I mean? It's like there's some. I'm confused as to why this government seems. Is it because, answering my own questions before I ask it, I'm confused as to why this government seems so allergic to saying this is what we have to do. Is the reason because they've spent the past 2 years and the year before that telling you about the nanny state Labor guys who told everyone what to do and we would never do that, when at this moment they probably need to do that. And this is why we said the other night, they almost have painted themselves into, as Chewy said, an ideological corner, and they can't use practices that the last lot use because they've been criticizing those practices for multiple years. Now, one of those practices, i.e. mandating 1 fill up per person, no jerry cans, might be the perfect thing to do right now, but they can't do it. Hence they be called hypocrites. Hence they be hypocrites, Chewy.
Yeah. Or again, appealing to people's sense of community and a shared adversity. You know, like if Willis or Luxon were a more personable people, I would be giving them rounds of applause and glowing support if they just went on the telly and look, this is what it's at. We don't want panic buying. We don't want people storing petrol in their sheds. We want to make sure that we can keep track of our reserves accurately. We want you to just start rationing yourselves. Do you need to take the car down to the shops? Do you need to do this 1-person trip? Is there public transport? You get all of these sort of things. Start talking to business leaders about work from home. Start talking to the fuel companies and going, look, we do need to put some sort of cap on this. And you need to start high and just work down. We don't want to shock people. We want to give them a chance to realize what's happening and realize that everybody is making sacrifices. Now, I would die if I heard something like this coming out of this government's mouth, because it wouldn't sound like them at all.
But part of this government has said the opposite. We played it. David Seymour at one of his interviews earlier in the week. Oh, people have the right to buy extra petrol? Okay. Great messaging. So there's going to be people storing, because fuel can last 3 to 6 months and still be pretty good. So people are going to be going, like they've done, going to Mitre 10 who sold out of jerry cans. I don't know what we call them as. What do we call them as Kiwis? Americans call them jerry cans. Petrol, those red petrol things, whatever. And people are now hoarding petrol in their garages, which, now that I think about it, is also a pretty dangerous thing to do.
It's actually illegal.
Is it really?
There must be
a
amount.
Yeah, there must be a literage, because who hasn't got it for their lawnmowers? Sort of
I think it comes down to the size of the container as well. Like
Gotcha.
people were talking about filling up those big, those caged plastic cubes for water.
Oh my
and
gosh.
that sort of thing. And I think I saw someone on Reddit go, no, don't do that. Don't do that. I think he was talking about 500 litres and it needs a certificate and all that sort of thing. But yeah, like it's just looking at how these guys are handling a crisis, just generally, this is terrible. I mean, we had, I've actually got it here. This is our foreign minister. Peter says Iran war will end much more quickly than people are thinking.
Why do we?
I don't know about that.
What's your evidence for that, Mr. Peters? What's your metric? How have you measured that?
A week ago.
Mm.
And the other thing that I factor in, if you look at the last time that we dealt with something like this in the region, the 1979 fuel crisis, this is twice as bad. Like, this is a bigger effect. And as Luxon said, if there's a ceasefire tomorrow, that doesn't matter. What is stopping the ships moving is not really Iran. It's the insurance companies. You have to insure a ship.
Gotcha.
Lloyd's of London is going, we don't want to risk it.
Yeah. Don't you dare try and go through that straight. You're not insured.
So then those ships don't move.
Yeah.
Because who's going to risk their cargo or their ship?
Can I ask one other question? I want to ask one other question, and I asked this of the petrol CEOs. All the fuel that we're talking about, the fuel that's on its way here and the fuel that's here in the country, that's all been paid for, yeah? So I understand the theory. The theory is we change the price at the petrol, at the pump, at the Bowser, as the oldies used to say. We change but we obviously change it even though that doesn't rotate in with when the prices jump up and down, because so petrol prices are up, oil prices are going up now, so we're going to put the price of petrol up. And then when oil prices go down, you're still using some of the more expensive petrol that you've almost kind of prepaid, and then you put it down straight away, even though you're still using the older petrol. I get that, but because it looks like we have got an end date, a finite time for petrol, in other words, 50 days, why aren't we just paying the price that was paid for that? And then at 51 days, it can take a massive jump when it comes into that new stock coming into the country. You know what I mean?
That massive jump is the answer.
Explain.
Like that would wreck an economy. You know, having a slower curve up and down is more predictable. You're essentially kind of paying into the next shipment, and that's why the price goes up. But yeah, think about businesses that are trying to plan their usage.
Yeah,
you know, they're like, okay, we're good for a month at this price, and then we're harvesting a crop or we're making a product and that sort of thing. You're trying to bake that into the price of what you're doing. If there's a big shock on fuel, then there is a big shock on the goods as well. So it's all about managing those costs. I may have done an autistic deep dive on why petrol is the way it is.
I hear what you're saying, but I mean, when you say a big jump, like all the fuel that we've got at the moment that I guess 10 days ago was $2.50 a litre for 91, there or thereabouts. I don't know. I'm not in that world anymore, but there or thereabouts could continue to get sold at that price with like very clear messaging that from this date, it's going to be $3.80 or it's going to be $3.40 or it's going to be $4 because the fuel landing on the shores on this date is going to cost that much. I guess what I'm saying is I hear what you're saying. I don't disagree with maybe. So but then what we're actually doing is trusting the petrol companies to look after society and make sure society stays from going into what was it called, Lord of the Flies, rather than the government.
Like think about that farmer the farming operation I was talking about the other night, where they go through like 50,000 litres of fuel a week or whatever.
Yeah.
And he was talking about, well, we emptied that out last week and we had to buy another lot and it was an extra $5,000. And that's on the curve. So doing what you're saying where there isn't that $5,000 jump week to week. But
yeah,
there is
I do hear you.
$20,000 jump at the next, it's all madness. I tell you what, I haven't had to calculate the math on this. The sun has never done this to me.
Oh, I reckon? Doesn't 20% of the sun go through the strait outside Iran? 20% of the sun travel through there?
I wouldn't be surprised if Trump turns around and goes, right, now we blow up the sun.
All right. Hey, let's do some super chats because that was a longer conversation than one intended, but it was a good one. So thank you for the work. Fino. Gold says 233 days, ditch the pricks in 26, 220 days to register. Pete says, I worry this government will follow the standard right-wing shock doctrine in this crisis and push austerity and asset sales even harder. Well, you've got a way to sort that out, New Zealand, at the next election in about 233 days, if you don't want asset sales sold, because I would be prepared to place a very large wager on the fact that there'll be asset sales in the next term, because every time they get asked that question, the answer verbatim is, we've promised not to sell assets in this term. They don't even say, Luxon doesn't even go, we haven't had that conversation yet about next term. They literally just answer it by saying in this term. So they're literally saying in this term, but next term, she's all on. Excel Deer says ASB economists are saying it's getting better, like she was in a hostage video. That's one I referenced earlier. Late fee from Dres Nort, another one from Excel Deer. Crewman, I love the smell of bed sheets burning in the morning. Dres Nort, late fee again, or did I say that twice? I did that twice. I think Dres Nort was late twice, officially. Stuart, late fee. Kia ora, y'all. I think your mic's still off there, True, if you're trying to talk to us, because you blew your nose. So I think that's why you turned it off.
True. I said you read it out twice. That means he owes us $4.
JC and the Pigeon Cats. I just spoke to my freight guy in China. He is warning of big increase in sea freight. Oh shit, that's a good point. And air freights next month when their current contracts run out. I will have to put my prices up. Oh my gosh, I'm glad I've just ordered some more stickers and stuff last few weeks. Done all that.
I heard a similar thing from a guy that I know that works in a business that imports a lot as well. It's that per container price. Is going to spike real hard. And that's the thing. Like Luxon said, if it ends tomorrow, it doesn't end. Like the 1979 oil crisis went on for over a year. But it was resolved much quicker than that. Like, it's the tail. It's that flow-on effect. It's that curve that just keeps on going down the supply chain.
Dirty
it is bad. And I saw in a comment, and you've reminded me of the figures, that 1979 oil crisis that caused such chaos was 7% of the world's oil supply.
Wow. And this is 3 times as much.
Because that was just the Iranians just shutting off their oil fields.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
this is affecting 20% of the globe's oil supply.
Wow. All right. Let's keep trucking. Willis said they're investigating changes to fuel formulations. This could be detrimental to combustion engines if planning to use inferior crude. Very true. Wonder if could that then flow on to negate, for example, warranties on cars? If it's not the car's fault, but the petrol's fault. What are you doing to me? Watch. Oh, you're telling me my heart's blowing up. Study Boy NZ says, crazy idea here. National work with Labour with the fuel crisis as its election year. So whoever wins, the solution is the same. Yeah, that would be a great idea. Some cross-party kind of politics going on here. Mark Allo says, but Pat, the coalition is using the traffic light system, but someone Labour used it and they said they couldn't understand it. Yeah. This is what they're doing.
Luxon said it was confusing. We couldn't work it out.
Excel Deer, I would walk 500 miles and I would walk 500 more. Chris says the situation is too complicated for Willis and Coalition. She will wait for a substantive policy to come out from other countries and copy that. Yep, very good. Gold again. The profits from today's sales are used to buy the next tanker at today's price. And Big Ol' B finally for now. Fuel is priced at the delivery to tanks in ground, midnight to midnight any day. Thank you, Big Ol' B. Everyone telling me that I'm just wrong, which is how we like it. If I was right, the universe would explode. Chewy, there's a new podcast out. It's called...
Is it better than ours? Do we have to do something
much better than ours? Much better than ours. Oh. Beers and banter. Qiulae Wong is the we've had Qiulae on, and it was like bunch of the questions here. Well, why is it opportunity? Why we've done all that, but there was some still interesting things to go. The one thing I thought about this, which was unfortunate for Lloyd, is see his lovely sign there, it's BIYO with Lloyd Burr. The only thing that I noticed, which was a problem, was where is it? About there, is that halfway through the program, his oh come on.
Oh. Please tell me it says yo with Lloyd Burr.
Not quite.
He's rapping with the kids.
Look at that. It's not even going to work for me. Not even going to work for me. So there's his lovely sign. And then we go back to his lovely sign. And it's all blown up. It's all blown up. Doesn't exist anymore. Look, no white sign. No nothing. Boof. Blown up. I'm just taking the piss. It was a good... I messaged Lloyd and said... nice. It was good. It was really nice, actually. I liked it. I enjoyed it. So check it out. So some interesting questions asked, and I think we should look at them because the last time we had Qiulae Wong, we were like, well, I was like saying it's hard for me to get behind a a party that might, as you have said, support policies or ideas from the current government, which we don't like. In other words, you're actually giving your trust to this one party that could go either way on things. But like, I've seen some press releases from Opportunity and that through the last wee while, and they do come across as very, very not on the right. Like, yeah. Like when Mr. Luxon said things about, schoolgirls being bombed and stuff, some press releases out, they've been very, very critical of that. This is an interesting little tidbit, and it's 3 minutes long. I do want to watch the whole thing, because she's asked both about Donald J. Trump, if she hates him, but then about all the parties on the right. Doesn't ask about any on the left, but all the parties on the right. And she is not complimentary at all of any of those leaders. Which is so think about these answers and think, could this person work with the coalition of chaos, right? Have that in your mind.
Do you hate Donald Trump?
I hate to use the word hate, but I can't see any redeeming features, no.
Do you think he's a moron?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. What do you think of Christopher Luxon?
And that's it. We're done. We don't need to watch any more than that. We're on board. No, just kidding. Christopher Luxon next.
Of Christopher Luxon.
Just a total fish out of water, and maybe he was a good CEO. I didn't really have any thing to do with him, but people say he was a good CEO, but maybe that just doesn't make a good politician. And
is he a good leader, or is he a good prime minister?
I mean, he obviously struggles with the communication thing with the media, and I can see, having been in this role for a couple of months, how you feel a lot of pressure to say the right thing. That I can understand how you almost just don't want to say anything, which is kind of what he does. He sort of bumbles through questions without answering anything, and I get it, but there's
That's
also...
what he says. I get it.
Does he?
That's his go-to line, yeah.
Oh, gosh.
I get it. The media need a hit.
His go-to line is what I would say to you is, and then he says it. That's his go-to line.
I get it,
Oh.
So maybe you are slowly turning into a politician.
Oh, dear.
Winston Peters, and I'm going to quote Winston Peters here. Because if you have to work with him, you've got to work with someone who stood on stage, and I think it was in Invercargill during an election, and he said, 2 Wongs don't make a white.
Yeah.
Can you work with someone who says that and use it?
And just remember for clarity, her surname is Wong. That's her surname, literally. He wasn't talking about her, but that is literally her surname to make that racist joke about someone of Asian descent.
Is that kind of language in an election campaign?
I think it's going to be pretty hard. I mean, we do say we will sit down at the table and try and find common ground with anyone in a coalition negotiation, if that's the position we're in. But I have to say, New Zealand First would be the hardest party to find that common ground with, and not because of their policies. There's policies we don't agree with, and there's some that we do. But it's the lack of integrity. It's the use of identity politics to divide.
I just want to remind you as well, audience and Chewy, that I've said many times, I've probably spent more time with Winston Peters than anyone watching this right now, unless you're from New Zealand First and you're keeping an eye on us. I've interviewed him probably 10 times all up. And I've said very clearly about the kind of penis patrol and the trans issues, and it's not who he's playing a game. I don't believe that's what he believes. I think he's using it to gain votes. Now, we've been saying that for a while. It appears that we've been rubbing off on perhaps the leader of Opportunity.
People that it would be pretty hard to trust someone like that to work with them.
If you're sitting around the cabinet table with him, knowing that he's used that kind of divisive language, I mean, you're part Chinese, you've got Chinese heritage, and you've got a Chinese name.
Yeah.
Are you worried that they're going to use that against you?
Yeah, potentially. I don't think he necessarily believes that stuff, which actually I think makes it worse. Yeah.
Yes. I'm surprised with Lloyd's response, because this doesn't feel like a real stretch to me. I mean, I've seen Winston since the early 2000s, and it's like, I think he's full of shit. But so if this is a genuine response from Lloyd, I don't quite get it, because I think it's a slam dunk. He doesn't believe all this stuff.
That stuff, which actually I think makes it worse. Yeah, I think that
Do you think most of what he says is like just...
Both of Winston and Shane Jones, they're great performers, and they know that they're
Shane has said
they're
as much.
performing to a crowd that will vote for that rhetoric.
Really? Is that the same with like the whole COVID stuff? And
Yep.
Yeah, I reckon. He just knows that there's a vote out there for that, so he says it. Which, as I said,
We've
I
been
think
saying
that
that
makes
for
it
2
worse
years.
because you're leading people down this path. You're creating all this animosity when you know that that's not even true.
Yeah, you're just
like
using
the
it as a
whole
means.
man-woman thing. Like, really, is that Māori seats? Is that really what you believe? I don't know.
Yeah, it's like the ultimate dog whistle. I mean,
Yeah.
you could probably, what do you call it? A dog alarm? What's bigger than a whistle? A dog.
A fog.
Dog
Yeah,
horn.
yeah, a dog fog horn. Okay, fair enough. Quickly, David Seymour, yes or no, fan?
Not a fan.
Redeeming
again, we
features?
would. He went on Dancing with the Stars, so he can obviously have a laugh at himself.
I kind of rate that.
So there you go, Chewie. Opportunity Party, they don't like to call themselves centrist. He said that in that interview, but they are overtly, and they speak that they can work with both sides. But there's not much love there for those three leaders of the Coalition of Chaos. What are your thoughts?
That is probably the best interview I've seen of her.
There's more to come. I've got a couple more clips.
It was relaxed and genuine and personable and honest. And I like that. I also like that she outdrank Lloyd Burr. She's at the halfway point at this stage, and that has my approval. I love the addendum that she doesn't think that Winston believes this stuff, and that makes it worse.
Yeah, totally.
I love that. Because that's something that I've always thought, like, I remember having a discussion with a friend of mine about this, about Hitler. Hitler did horrible things. He set the whole world on fire. He turned a whole group of people into air pollution. What would make that worse? Would it be that he used it just to get into power? That he didn't really believe
it. Yeah.
And I think that, if you're going to stand up in front of people and go, follow me, these are the things that I believe, and you don't believe them, that does make it worse.
I saw an interesting chat screen by. I didn't star it, but someone said he's surprised Lloyd Burr's shot because he's never heard it before. I'm dumbfounded by that. I mean, I know that they don't all watch us, but we've been saying this for 2 years. I've been saying this for 2 years. He doesn't believe this stuff. And I just thought that would be pretty common knowledge amongst people who have spent any time, i.e. not social time, but interview time with Winston Peters, that it's a front. It's a mask, ironically, not an N95 mask, just a mask to have him get votes. That doesn't seem controversial to me in the fact of knowledge. It is controversial in the fact of he shouldn't be doing it. But yeah, it's maybe I'm a bit naive to the stuff that we talk about here as a whānau, chat included, that doesn't get talked about in other mainstream media areas. Maybe
I don't think they're hiding it either. Like I go back to the interview that Moana did with Shane Jones, where she straight up asks him, I think, how much of what you do is true and how much of it is stagecraft. Paraphrasing there, and he goes, "Yeah, well, it's politics. It's a game." Yeah. And I think it's a game for them, and it's a performance for them. But the people that are following them believe it.
That's true.
And I think that's dangerous when you're going to say things against big chunks of our society. I'll be the first to admit, when it came to Winston Peters, I used to think, I don't like the guy, but he seems to be an effective foreign minister. I think those days are long gone.
Yeah, especially what he's saying now about the war. It'll be over soon. Yeah. You might as well put out where's your mission accomplished banner, Mr. Peters?
Yeah. And look, I also think this illustrates a very clear generational difference between Winston and newer politicians. That whole, I don't believe he believes this stuff because it's silly. He can't. I have no concept of him worrying about the man-woman stuff, really. You know, his brain could be cooked enough that he's like, yeah, this is a big issue. But younger people just don't see it. It's not a it's like wind back the clock to the 80s where people were doing gay panic and that sort of thing. We just don't have the amount of people that think the sky is falling, because there's gay people open and out in the world. And we will be the same about trans issues further down the line. You know, it's just how things are.
So we're going to move on. This is a bit of a strange part of the conversation. It's a bit truncated because obviously this is a set-up interview. They know that they've been invited to come and talk to Lloyd. They've had some communication as to what they're going to talk about. And one of the things that obviously the production crew or Lloyd himself, whoever set it up, has done is gone, what we want you to do is bring us a policy that knocks our socks off. And they've used that phrase. In other words, they want to hear from something from her that's like really new and unique, and maybe it's a bit of a special, release on this show. Knock our socks off. And I'm gonna burn the lead here and tell you, she goes to a UBI. Now, I think, unfortunately, what happens is Lloyd starts joking and kind of talking about that's not an interesting, we've heard this all before, but she says a comment as to how she's going to pay for the UBI, and it gets missed, and I think it's the most important part of this conversation when she talks about who's going to pay for a UBI under these guys, especially if, once again, you're talking about supporting those three on the right or coming and sitting on the light side and the left. Okay. So let's have a listen.
Rock people's socks off. I think tax is something that our party has always stood for.
Oh, and for goodness sake.
Tax can be exciting. Yeah. Tax can be exciting.
Big project.
It cannot be exciting unless you say we're going to be like the United Arab Emirates and have no tax. They're not exciting.
We're going to put money into almost every New Zealander's pocket with our citizens' income. Like that is a radical idea, and it's been around for a long time. And I think its time has come. It has been trialled successfully in lots of places around the world with the growth of AI.
I just think that was a really shit idea to bring.
Oh, Lloyd.
No, because universal basic income has been around for ages, and I thought you'd come in with like a cool, hard-hitting one, but it's now like free money.
Now you need to, just because it's a lot of talking over here, I'm saying pay attention. She's about to reveal, and Lloyd misses as to how she's going to pay for it, right?
And then now we can't have the debate about who's going to pay for it and how. This is how cool our pub is, by the way.
We can have the debate about who's going to pay for citizens' income.
Yeah, but
there's going to be the landlords that are holding all their money and property.
Shut up, Lloyd.
This is like Team New Zealand in race 1 of 2003.
And that's the end. Doesn't go back at all. They start joking about how the studio is falling apart. But did you hear what she said? It's going to be the landlords who are holding all their wealth and assets. That's what she said.
Debates and stuff. Yeah. And I thought you'd come in with like a cool, hard-hitting one, but it's now like free money. And then now we can't have the debate about who's going to pay for it and how. This is how cool our pub is, by the way.
We can have the debate about who's going to pay for citizens' income.
Yep.
Yeah, but
there's going to be the landlords that are holding all their money and property.
Is it going to be the landlords that are holding all their money and property? That's interesting. That's interesting, right? They don't talk about. I've muted it because they don't talk about it anymore.
I would really like to hear some more about that, Lloyd.
Yeah,
Lloyd, the interviewer.
Yeah. The problem, I mean, like, I actually quite enjoyed the podcast. I'm not taking the piss, but sometimes you can see, I don't like blowing smoke up our own asses. When people try and copy the sort of nonchalant piss take that we sort of do, but they're in a mainstream setting, it doesn't quite work. So just do the interview well. You're a good interviewer, Lloyd. So how's she going to pay for the UBI? She's going to pay for it by getting it from landlords who are holding all their wealth, hoarding all their wealth, all their money in property. That doesn't sound like the kind of thing that Luxon, in particular, but that Seymour or that Peters would go with. So again, I'll say there's this party who says we can work with both sides. She doesn't raise any of the leaders on the right. She has a policy there that is going to be rejected by the right. So this is not a paid placement advert for opportunity, but I'm interested some more in these people, Qiulae, and what they've got to say.
Yeah, look, in previous iterations of Top, when I talked to friends that were interested in what they were doing, their most interesting stuff was around property and capital gains tax and that sort of thing. So for Lloyd to go, oh no, talking about tax, Tops has always been about reforming
tax. Gareth Morgan, for God's sake.
Yeah, it's always been about that. So why are you surprised about that? What knocked their socks off policy were you expecting? Like, it's, I also sort of go, why didn't you let her answer? Like, you can always comment afterwards. Oh, that's, but we don't know. Your job there, Lloyd, is to get information out so people can make their judgment, and you can maybe put your own spin on it afterwards, but at least let her fucking say it. You've got heaps of beer left, mate. You can just sit there and have a wee drink while she tells us about it. Because she might as well, because she's already finished it. I don't know if she's finished it, but at the rate that she was going to outdrink Lloyd there.
I think he was on his second and she was on her first, but nonetheless. One more thing I'm going to show you, because he goes through, he's obviously got this series of questions at the end, cat or dog, you know, do you like this food, those kinds of things, which are kind of inane really, but it's sort of a little bit about, inside the actor's studio, those questions, they ask the same question at the end. You'll probably find they're asking the same questions at the end, but there's one question they ask, and which is oil or coal. And I know what most of us would say. I know what Marama would say, or Chloe would say. They'd say neither. But she addresses it in a really interesting way. She addresses it that if I have to pick of one of those two, if I have to, so if it's either or and I have to, she has a pick. But again, wait for the last 15 seconds, because it's not just about coal or gas. That's what it is. I don't know what I've said in this thing so far, but it's coal or gas. The last 10 or 15 seconds, you maybe hear a bit more about what she's thinking about policy-wise for them. If you give me a binary, this is what I'd pick. But actually, I'll leave it there and we'll have a listen.
Gas or coal?
Gas or coal?
You have to choose for Islama.
In this current climate, coal. We have more ready access to it, and I would much rather we use that than build a whole new LNG terminal and lock ourselves into another whole lifetime of a fossil fuel.
This is a pragmatist's answer, right? That's what she's doing. If that's the only choice, this is what we're doing.
Lifetime of a fossil fuel that we're going to import from overseas.
So we import coal from, I think it's Indonesia.
Yeah, but we're not having to build a new $1 billion terminal and tax everyday citizens.
Okay. Why don't we just use our own coal? And then there's coal in Huntley and there's coal on the west coast.
Why don't we just spend that money on expanding our renewables? We've got a lot of good resources.
This was meant to be quick fire. This is in front of the date.
So, give me a binary, here's the answer. But actually, why are we even talking about those two and not renewables? It was an interesting chat, and there were some interesting tidbits in there, and that's another one. What you hear is her playing the game of the interview. I mean, Marama would say neither, right? That's what Marama would say. Ask that question. Qiulae said, well, she shouldn't use these words, but she's going, if I'm playing the game and I have to pick from one of those two, this one, because that's less cost to the economy. But actually, why don't we just put money into renewables? Which, again, it piques my interest, Chewie.
Yeah, I think she's doing a really good job there, and there are things that sound really, really promising. Is it enough? Being a party, getting into Parliament's really, really hard. You have to win a seat, or get over that threshold. I still don't think that they're able to get over that threshold. And
I don't think so either.
Many more interviews like that to get her over there. And again, I think the question of where are you pitching? Are you pitching the left of National, the left wing of National, the guys that are like, oh, we thought Labour had done their time and they disappointed us in some reason, so we're going with the other team. Are you pitching at them? Is that why you're you don't want to push back too much on this we're not the centre thing?
Yeah, I still have this problem.
Economically smart and liberal?
I still have this problem that, the opportunity, they just called opportunity now, sitting cross-party benches as well and voting on each policy also could actually mean in reality, they pick every single policy that passes. Like if they give supply and confidence on a couple of things, on whatever it is, the budget and that, and then they're sitting in the opposition benches and they're the tipping point, they then decide every single policy. And that just doesn't fill me with confidence, even though to be honest, bro, everything she's saying, every answer she's giving is like an FU to this coalition philosophy, ideology, and legislation.
She doesn't sound right aligned at all. You know, as Got Stolen says, what did she say wrong? To be honest, nothing.
Yeah.
But I think that's more an interesting question of where that places her with, you know, if she does end up with any negotiating power in a coalition arrangement or something. You know, is she going to go into the negotiating room with Winston and Seymour and sort of push for essentially a UBI was the big policy there, and have any negotiating power at all? You know, or is she going to seem to have a reasonably comfortable home with the left bloc?
Yeah.
From some of those. But again, you would need to win a seat or get over the threshold. And one of those is an order of magnitude harder than the other.
And the thing is, no one will help them because the left won't give them a seat because they will support the right on some things, and the same for the right. There's an interesting question in the chat interesting thought / question by Ian in the chat. I don't think this is the right person to do it, but what if they got themselves someone who's already in government or already in parliament to come to them who's looking for a home? Now, I don't think Takuta Ferris would be the person to do that because they would never support someone, but that's probably forget Takuta and forget Top. That's another way for a small party to get in, to find someone with the constituency, and they then use their constituency to get the party in. It's an interesting. I don't think it's
a former national person,
and a Labour one as well.
Parliament.
Yeah, and a Labour one as well. But I don't think that's going to happen with Doc. But it's an interesting third option. Find yourself someone who's already in, bring them across, help them win their seat. Bingo, bango, 3 MPs. Your seat with 2.5% of the vote. Interesting way of doing it.
Yep.
Should we do some super chats? Wellington or Welligururu says Trump's seizure of the oil reserves in Venezuela months before this crisis should indicate that America was prepping for a long, drawn-out conflict.
I had that thought as well, but I think that describes a level of planning that doesn't exist in the White House.
Well, it is interesting, though, that even today there is a shocking video of Donald Trump going, I can do whatever I want with Cuba. I can let them have it. I can take it. Literally, I can take it if I want, like a proper dictator.
He said that about Greenland.
Yeah, but he's done it in sort of Central America, hasn't he, with Venezuela? So
2 out of 3.
This is the same text. Thank you, Wellington Ruru. I don't know whether that's a fault on our system or whether you just paid for that twice. I apologise about that, but thank you for your super chats. 8 Vasta says Peters couldn't give a damn about cigars as long as he gets his cigars. And one here from Chris. And stuff is funded by land speculation. Of course he will. That feels like that's the part 2 of a text that's not there or message that's not there. Yeah, and look, trust me, I'm not now like, yeah, I'm on board for Top, but that was an interesting conversation. And like people are saying, what did she say that was wrong in that? Not much. And watch the full 30 minutes. It's on Stuff. You can go check it out. As I said, I enjoyed it. It was good. I think that there is a real art in having I've got a snoring dog there. A real art in having the space to let someone say everything they need to before you cut them out short. And the problem with mainstream media is they're not used to that. I mean, Lloyd is a television journalist. that's a 90-second gap. That's a 8-minute interview sort of thing. Whereas if you're going to do this thing on the internet, that's all out the window, Lloyd. You don't have to worry about that stuff anymore. You just talk until it's finished. Even if you say, I'm only going to be 20, like they said at the end of that, we've been far longer than we should have been. It was like 32 minutes. I'm like, don't tell them it's going to be 20 minutes. Do what we do. And we go, nah, I don't know. This is what I have said to people. We had Debbie and Nawari on and we spoke to them for 2.5 hours. I said, I'm sure that won't be with you tonight, but, that has happened before. And I say, if you have a hard out, tell us. And they often go, no. Or they go, well, I'm not really a night person, and so it'd be good to be done well before 10. I go, yep, cool. Because you don't need to. It's the internet. We're not thrown to the next ad break. Even if we were, we'd put the ad break wherever we wanted to, because it's the internet. All right. Is there anything else in there, Qiulae, you want to get to before we move on to Kieran and theBISH?
No,
it's Kieran
let's move on.
and theBISH.
Yep.
I looked at this. I almost forgotten for a sec because this was my opening screen. I'm like, what the hell are we talking about next? We're not talking about rugby, are we? It's because he starts his conversation talking under the previous story. So this is actually someone earlier in the text, I think, Qiulae, was saying that National and Labour should get together and come up with a solution for this fuel crisis. Then whoever takes over, either a continuation or a new group in December, is already on board. It sort of sounds a bit like this in this conversation between Kieran and theBISH. And I guess the way you would describe it is, and maybe Kieran actually uses the word mature. We have to be mature about this. And they kind of bromance each other when it comes to fuel stuff. The second conversation is around how ridiculous it was that they got rid of the clean car discount. We'll get to that. But let's have a listen, first of all, to the chat about the current climate when it comes to working with each other on the fuel crisis.
Fuel prices are climbing fast, and with warnings that New Zealand has less than 50 days worth of petrol, diesel and jet fuel, debate over how to...
Sorry, but just the mixed messaging. Warnings, we have less than 50 days. Be concerned. AA, we've got plenty of fuel. Nicola and Christopher Luxon, several weeks, we're fine. Like, come on, guys. Is this a dilemma like Chris Jang just painted? I mean, he's a television news presenter. He doesn't have to be the one in the halls of power. Or are we fine? Because if we're getting warnings about 50 days of fuel, then that's an issue. If we're getting told by the AA we've got plenty of fuel, then that's not. Come on, we need to figure this out.
Respond is heating up. The government says it's preparing options but won't cut fuel tax. At the same time, higher petrol costs have sparked a jump in interest in electric vehicles, reigniting the debate over whether scrapping the EV subsidy was the right call. To discuss, let's bring in our weekly political panel, Nationals Chris Bishop and Labour MP Kieran McAnulty, who's in the studio with us this morning. Good morning, gentlemen. Kieran, we'll start with you. Is the government acting quickly enough? What should it be doing right now to ease the pressure on households?
Oh, look, I mean, at the end of the day, first of all, we've got to recognise that this is extremely hard for households at the moment, and it is for businesses, and we're seeing not only the effect at that level, but also regionally as well. We've got airlines pulling out of isolated communities like Westport because of the cost of fuel. Me coming in the studio and trying to put the boot into the government right now is probably not what people want to hear. They want to hear a constructive suggestion as to what can be done, and it's fair to say that the options are limited. It is entirely true to say that the events in the Middle East are impacting prices, and it is equally true to say that prices were increasing before that as well. There are things the government could do that will make a material benefit to not only reducing the use of fuel so that those stockpiles can go longer, and that would be like investing in public transport, for example. So areas that do have public transport, we can have fewer people in cars. But I think all options should be on the table around cost of living relief as well. But we're not going hard on that. We're just wanting to have a rational conversation with the government about what options are available to help people out right now.
So when they say we're not going hard on that, my sense is they're saying where Labour is not beating up the government about that yet, because this is actually an issue we need to work on together. That's how I read that, Qiulae. Is that how you hear that?
Yeah, which I think is completely fair.
Yeah,
that is an olive branch.
Yeah, it's exactly. He's putting his hand out to say, let's work on this together, hold hands and skip down the aisle of Parliament. And so now Chris's response, and I guess these guys are friends and they're mates, so you'd expect them to be amicable anyway, but it's in agreement.
Is the government considering a move to alert level 2 of the National Fuel Plan?
Hal, the first thing to say is I agree with Kieran and welcome the responsible approach. This is a time for serious, responsible leadership. It is a very serious situation.
Then we're screwed. Sorry, just kidding. It's a joke. It's a joke.
What's happening internationally. It's not our war, obviously, but we deal as a country with the downstream effects of the war in the Middle East. We've got about 50 days of fuel either in the country or coming to the country. At the moment, we're okay, but obviously that could change. We are monitoring things on a daily basis. Ministers are meeting daily. We're getting daily.
See, that's better messaging than the Prime Minister and Nicola Willis.
Damn it! You're
at
right.
At the moment, we're okay, but we gotta keep a real close eye on this, guys. That's better messaging than Luxon and Willis. You know,
100%. I hate it. I hate this. I hate saying that BISH is doing a good job here, but he is.
Yeah, we'll see if he sticks
much closer to what I was saying the messaging should be.
Will he stick the landing? Let's find out.
Situation reports there's extensive engagement with the fuel companies happening as we speak every day. So things could get worse from here. We just don't know. It's a bit of a day-by-day, hour-by-hour proposition. What's important is that we're prepared. We do have a national fuel plan, and we are, working our way through that and considering options around temporary, targeted and timely support for households, because there will be households.
Sorry, this is a tick against you for fucking CEO talk. Alliteration. We don't need that if it's not a radio competition. You don't need alliteration like that for policy.
Through that and considering options around temporary, targeted and timely support for households, because there will be households out there doing it very tough as a result of the spike in fuel. And you mentioned it in your intro. Households will also themselves be looking at things like public transport, for example, or in fact moving to electric vehicles. In fact, there's been quite a spike, I'm told, in EV sales and interest from retailers just in the last week or so, which is completely expected, obviously, as well. So the government is taking this very seriously. We're prepared to act if required, but we need to work through the options in a careful and rational way, and that's what we're doing.
I'll say it again. I mean, love him or hate him, that is a much better messaging from a senior government minister than the Prime Minister is getting. It did make me think, Chewy, that line, temporary, timely and targeted, whoever thought of that on the 9th floor, I'm sure when the Prime Minister heard it, he blew up in his pants a little bit. Who came up with that? Temporary, timely and targeted. I'm sure that was that was the highlight of the Prime Minister's week, when that alliteration was found. Christopher Bishop is that messaging is better. It's much better.
How fucking lackluster is our government?
Yep.
Like that we are having to praise theBISH. Right? Like, I mean, yeah, cool. He seems reasonable, and there's a more accurate sort of reflection on what is going on at the moment. He does more to reassure that people are taking this seriously.
Yeah.
Than the Prime Minister.
That they are taking it seriously. That the government is taking it seriously.
Like that is insane to me. That is not a good thing. That is a terrible reflection on the actual leadership.
Because let's be fair. That wasn't amazing.
Like the man.
That wasn't like I'll follow you.
That's what I mean.
No, that's the point. That wasn't like I'll follow you into battle for this fuel emergency. That was fine, but we're comparing it to utter trash. So the fine wins out.
A low bar. And we're like, oh, how surprising. Like we're shocked by that. We should expect this is a minimum that he has cleared.
It is. It's that idea. It's that idea. I'm trying to think of a saying. Something like, in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man would be king, or something like that. So like, the one-eyed man will be king. And
that.
I'm sure I have.
In the land of the one-eyed, the no-eyed man. Have you seen my keys?
In the world of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. That's it. In the world of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. And that was the one-eyed man. That response was with one eye.
Yeah.
And all of the other ones are coming out blind.
Oh, that's so disappointing.
There's one more clip to play from breakfast before we wrap up for the night, and that is, this is a bit more. And this government has not been good at insurance policies. We've said this since day one. If these 3 years, nothing had happened requiring a big chunk of money, nothing unforeseen had have happened because they emptied the public coffers, then they would have got to the end of the term and they would have gone, look how well we did. We gave all these tax breaks. We gave all, and there was not a problem. But of course, there's been a cyclone every 3 weeks. There's been flooding all over the country. There's been tariffs put on. There's been a new war. There's been a continuation of a war. There's been Israel and Gaza. It's like everything has gone wrong. And it's the same as the EV clean car discount. They cancelled it for the reasons they cancelled. Let's not even get into that. Now, with hindsight being 2020, we all know, and they know, that the economy would be doing much better if there were more EVs out there and fewer vehicles on the road being dependent on fuel. That means those fire engines or those ambulances or those, whatever the emergency vehicles, those police vehicles could have had more comfortable, easy access to that fuel. So this part of the conversation is very, very simple. Was it a mistake to cancel the clean car discount? Absolutely it was. We go back to proper form now, and BISH tells us why it wasn't.
On the EV interest, we've just seen a big spike in that, Chris. Does it show that the government got it wrong in scrapping the clean car discount?
Yes.
No, in fact, I think if anything, it strengthens the case for scrapping it. We've always said that EVs are a great thing. I drive an EV, have done for 7 years. I bought mine a few years ago because the price of electricity is cheaper than the price of fuel. Now, that was the case when, petrol was, $2 a litre. When it's $3 a litre, potentially going higher, the case for electric vehicles becomes even stronger, and people are working that out for themselves and have done in the last couple of weeks as the price of fuel has spiked. So the question is whether or not taxpayers should pay people to buy Teslas, which is what the case was before. And I just do.
Like the Prime Minister's wife, who for some reason bought two. She bought two of them.
I do not think it's a prudent use of taxpayer money to ask middle and upper class people to pay a bit less for an expensive car on the back of hard-working, poorer taxpayers. I just don't think that's very good public policy, and that's...
So this is ideological, yeah? So he hasn't actually said that this is a good or bad idea. He's given you the ideological answer of user pays, basically. The reality is it's not the taxpayer, and we know this. I mean, we don't need to go over this necessarily. It's not the taxpayer who are stumping up for wealthy New Zealanders to buy Teslas. It's the people who are driving badly emitting vehicles and buying Ford Rangers. Those people are helping. And there's this line, right? There are people who are always wealthy, who are always going to be able to buy what they want when they want, with discount or not. But the further you go down there, you get to a line where all of a sudden it's just a bit of a stretch for these guys to get into that EV. So they stick with a nice but less expensive combustion engine vehicle. What the EV car discount did, the clean car discount, was there was another layer here who couldn't quite make it, who then potentially could get into it. It also certainly encouraged businesses to get fleet cars that were EVs. That was a huge encouragement for them to do it. So this whole thing about, why would we subsidise wealthy people getting EVs? Wealthy people weren't spending $77,000 on EVs. They were spending $150,000, so they didn't get it anyway. It was the the Ford Ranger drivers, etc., who was subsidising it. And to sit here and go, this is a good reason why we scrapped it, and then just give the ideological the answer, which is user pays. It's just, we've gone back to form in this video, Chewy. We don't have to feel good about this answer. Thoughts, sir, before we go on to Kieran?
Yeah, no, I agree. It's back to ideology. It's back to, I'm certainly not going to criticise a decision that we've made. Of course not. You're not reflecting on it at all. Like if the clean car discount had continued, we would have had a higher percentage of EVs in our national fleet, and that would have helped with this fuel crisis.
Yep.
That's what you've skipped past.
Yep. And Kieran kind of gets to that now. Let's get some facts and figures from Uncle McEnulty.
One of the reasons we scrapped it.
Kieran, what do you reckon?
The number of sales of EVs as a result of that scheme went up 180%. And at the point where the government scrapped it, roughly 50% of the cars coming into the country were EVs. Now, if that momentum continued, the reliance...
Think of that. 50% coming in were EVs because they were being purchased.
So here's another thing that's happened, right? Is the EV manufacturers will make their decisions on whether they're going to release vehicles here based on EV sales. Now, one of the most common EVs out there is the Nissan Leaf.
Yep.
Gen 1, Gen 2.
Every third car.
Nissan's just announced that they're not releasing the latest Nissan Leaf here because our EV sales are not strong enough. Now, it could be the case of a legacy car maker decide to shoot themselves in the foot. But they have claimed that our EV market is not strong enough for them to consider bringing it here. So we miss out on a new vehicle. The Chinese will fill the gap, but yeah.
So
it does have flow-on effects.
Here's some stats from evdb.nz. As of early 2026, pure battery electric vehicles market share in New Zealand has dipped to approximately 5% of new vehicle sales, following the removal of government subsidies. While electrified vehicles, including hybrids, are growing, with hybrids comprising 28 to 31% of sales, the reason that's the case is that's what's available. I don't think that necessarily is a massive choice. It's like so many vehicles are hybrids now. But pure adoption has slowed from highs of over 20% during the clean car discount era. So 1 in 5 new vehicles were EV. Now it's 1 in 20 under this government. But Bishop's like, well, I just think this is evidence. It's a good reason we cancelled it when it's gone from 1 in 5 to 1 in 20 new vehicle purchases. But remember, a new vehicle purchase then goes down into the second-hand market in 3, 5, 10 years from now. And then you don't have to get those early Leafs off boats from Japan that have rooted batteries and aren't necessarily as good as they could be. You get the new version Leaf in 5 years being a second-hand vehicle. So, there's no argument here. There's no argument anywhere that says it was a good decision to scrap the clean car discount. It's only bad.
The reliance on fuel for personal transport would have reduced considerably.
Of course.
But in fairness, that wasn't an argument that was being made at the time because fuel security wasn't really in our minds. It was around reducing our emissions with climate change in mind. And if the scheme was allowed to continue, people would have been faced with a choice. They have a subsidy available to them for clean emitting vehicles like EVs, those vehicles that don't use as much fuel. And there would have been a fee attached to those vehicles that do use a lot of fuel. And an informed choice would have been made in that sense. There was a number of number of vehicles in the middle that neither incurred a fee nor a subsidy, and there were some utes in those as well, for the matter. But nevertheless, the fact is that this is a decision that the government made. They are defending to keep it. We would have preferred that they had continued with it because over time it would have been self-funding. Look, we've got to find solutions to the way that we reduce our personal fuel use at the moment. This is why they have a ban. More EVs would have helped with that.
There you go. More EVs would have helped with that. Therefore, abandoning the clean car discount, Chewy, was a bad decision. Thoughts, sir?
It really was.
Wow.
So here's a graph from Greater Wellington just showing how impactful the end of that program was. You can see a pretty steep line of growth, both from plug-in hybrids and battery electrics, and then the thing ended, and it cratered. Like, you remember the car dealers at the time going, holy shit, you've just fucked us.
Yeah.
And it was ideological. Like, Simeon Brown is still talking about it as it's an ideological issue.
Can
Nicola Willis
I
is still talking about it like this rebate was only going to Remuera millionaires. Simeon Brown mentioned the fact that the rebate was enough for that there was a portion there. I looked into that because I thought, hang on, the electric Porsche is nowhere near the $70,000 cap.
No, it's 200. Yeah.
Yeah. Somebody specifically ordered in a second-hand one that just scraped in under that 70 grand, but it was a second-hand one. And that's fine. They didn't know that this was coming, but they scrapped it because it was a vote winner.
With farmers. The ute tax.
With
exactly
farmers.
What it was.
With tradies. We're doing it for you, tradies, because you don't get anything. You know, and it encouraged them. You know, they encouraged farmers with this new tax rebate to go out and buy a new truck, buy a new piece of farm equipment. It's a Ford Raptor. We know it is. And they're some of the thirstiest, dirtiest vehicles we have in the national fleet. There are EV utes. There are EV tradie vans. There is EV equipment for the job, and there will be more and more coming on stream. But these guys, they used it as a vote winner. They called it a ute tax, and it wasn't a fucking ute tax. And it worked for them, and it fucked the country a bit. Because we've gone into a crisis with how much fuel and how efficiently our fleet uses fuel is going to become a factor.
I've learned something from this conversation tonight, Qiulae. One of the things I've learned is because I was an EV purchaser just after that massive downturn, and so I got a massive discount on the price of the vehicle that I bought, like $20,000 plus discount, because they needed to just get rid of them because the government had fucked them. The thing is, though, so for a long time I've been going, so when they cancelled it, they did become easier to buy a car. So can we really say, I'm just looking for a vehicle for you, Qiulae, because you were like 70,000. There's one for you. 100 to 130, 130,000. You happy with that? 2023 though, sort of second hand. Because what you've just said now, I realise is the thing. So yes, some of us were lucky enough to get massively discounted EVs because places need to just get rid of what they had, sort of break even, if not lose money on them. But when you say Nissan is not bringing the Leaf over, what that means is the actual downside is the lack of sales. So yes, some people managed to, because of the government screwed over those car businesses, ironically, got a good deal. But because the number of EV sales dropped, that's the reason we're not going to get the vehicles coming through in the future. So that's actually a huge thing. So even if it seemed good for some people to get a good deal, the end outcome for everybody is bad because we're not going to see some of those vehicles. Now, there's other vehicles that have come out in the market since then. It would be fascinating to see what they'd have done with, like there's the Atto 1, which is $29,000 or $30,000. There's the Dongfeng Box, which I think they're selling for 25K at the moment. You know, there's a bunch of them kind of in that 30K range, which there wasn't back then. It would be fascinating to see if the government brought that back, how they would do it. Maybe they'd bring it down to below 50,000, which would then impact the rich people buying EVs even more. You know what I mean? They could drop it, that yardstick now, to help lower income people get into a job. Like, I think if you live in Auckland and you live in Helensville and you drive into the city every day, or you live in Orewa and you drive down, or you live in Papakura and you drive up, then an EV would pay for itself within like a year or so compared to petrol. And not just because petrol is expensive now. That's been the case. Like buying one on tick, buying one where you're paying it off would pay for itself. If you're traveling, if you're living in places like Dunedin, Wamaru, you know, smaller places, you don't have quite the same distance to travel, so it's not quite the same. But bigger cities with long commutes, they pay for themselves, man. Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, you're a bigger city slicker, caught in, a traffic jam. You're burning fuel just sitting there. In an EV, you're not. Yeah, look, I think there's two other things that'll kick this along. I think like you're hearing from the car dealerships is it's not just inquiries about EVs, it's people buying them. They're moving.
Yeah.
So people are making that choice now. They might have looked at it when the discount was there, stopped looking at it so hard when it disappeared, and now here's something else to go, oh, well, I might as well capitalize on this decision that I kind of made already. You know, the other thing that'll happen is when they bring in road user charges for everyone.
True.
Because I think at that moment when it is truly an even playing field, because at the moment now, petrol vehicles, for the most part, are paying less than the people paying road user charges.
EVs are overcharged. Big trucks are undercharged. EVs are overcharged at the moment.
But once there's an even playing field, I think people will look at the running costs and go, oh, holy shit, this is a no-brainer. At the moment, it's too hard to make that comparison. But yeah, I think the takeaway here is that for ideological and vote buying reasons, these guys fucked New Zealand over. They have made this fuel crisis worse by not being honest, by misrepresenting the clean car discount for just capitalized. Like, I mean, it's a completely different environment. But when I was last in London, electric tradie vans were everywhere. You know, they were running their tools off them. You know, they don't do utes in the same way. Your tradies have got to have a ute here. In the UK, it's vans. And they're not cheap. Like, I looked up an electric Ford Transit over there. I think it worked out to be close to $120,000 vehicle in New Zealand dollars. But I saw loads of them because they're useful, you know. So they're definitely out there, and I think, you know, it's getting a big ute like a Ford Ranger when you're a contractor or something like that isn't a practical choice. It's a I want it. But do you know what I have seen a lot of down here in increasing numbers, Pat?
What?
The BYD Shark.
Oh, the ute, which is a hybrid. It's a hybrid though, isn't it? It's not full EV.
It's what they call a super hybrid. It's got like I think about 100 and something kilometers of range on the battery only.
Oh, okay. Wow. Because most hybrids are like 30 to 50 k's range on electric only. So 150 is
and the ones that we see here in New Zealand, because they're mainly Japanese imports, by the time that they get here, that tiny hybrid battery is fucked.
Yeah.
So yeah, I see people go, oh, split the difference and go hybrid. I wouldn't.
No.
I wouldn't. Just go battery.
Well, I mean, because the thing about the hybrid, Whānau, which I'm sure you all know, is you're still reliant on petrol. But not as much petrol, but it's still reliant on petrol. So
yeah,
if you can, like, I mean, like, you know me, Chewy, when I look to purchase, and I don't have range anxiety, but for me, range was like the biggest thing. So I just waited for the vehicle that I could have. I mean, my EV can get up to 600 k's around town, and it's rated for about 520, and so that's the main reason I bought it. So those vehicles are there now. But I needed to wait for that to come out, especially because I know you're really good at this when you're lower K's range sort of thing, but the EV sort of network south of Christchurch is pretty shit. It's pretty shit compared to north of Christchurch, and certainly compared to the North Island.
I would say south of Dunedin.
Yep.
And sort of inland. I've had some tight moments there, but look, if somebody can do the Dunedin to Christchurch journey in a clapped out first generation Leaf, then I think anybody can do it.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, yeah, you're true. And State Highway 1's okay. Going into Queenstown is okay. Yeah, it's just not the best. But now that's why I had range as one of my top things. That was probably the top thing for me. Anyway, that's about us. Is there anything else? There's a starred chat in there I can see. We should get to that before we sign off for the week. Pete says, anybody else name their cars? I call mine Wooby. Do you name your cars, Chewy?
I don't use it very often though, but I call mine Han.
Because you're always driving it solo?
because
by yourself?
I'm chewy.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that works too.
Like
actually, oh fuck, I'll find this picture. Hang on.
Uh-oh.
1 sec. Stall for time. Oh, it's right there. Fantastic.
Wooming says cost of driving 15 kilometres in Auckland, nearly double that of public transport AT, according to RNZ Storage Day. Wow. Yeah, I mean, depending on the 15Ks as well. I mean, if you then have to park, for example, in the CBD, could be well more than that, just of driving it maybe, but the actual, then you've got a vehicle that you have to park somewhere, even more maybe. Yes, Chewy. Oh, I know what you're going to show.
I saw this the other day in town.
Yep.
Just enhance what caught my attention.
Yep.
So I posted this up because I thought a couple of things. I was like, oh, a Humvee, that's pretty cool. And then I saw the number plate which says I identify as REV, and I was like, oh, it's always that same joke, right? You know, you can imagine his mates going, oh, that's so funny. It's what the trans people say that they identify, but they're not. I identify as a woman, but you're not. You identify as an EV, but you're not. Oh, classic bants. And I just thought that was a bit shit. But then when I posted it up, one of my friends says, for fuck's sake, it's I identify as an EV.
Yeah. I
thought
thought that as well.
Maybe it just wasn't available.
Yep.
Guess what? It fucking is.
Oh, you fucking losers. What an absolute tosser. I mean, my one rebuttal to your Humvee is this one.
If it was electric, I would be going crazy.
Well, do you know what that is?
Yes.
Yeah. So this is, I've done a podcast with him. We talked about this with Jerry Rig Everything. He is, he's built, it's a complete channel that he's built. I mean, he does all sorts of stuff, but he, what do you call it? He converted the Hummer into an EV, and there's a whole journey there of it. It's very cool. There you go. There's the engines and the drive shafts on the chassis, and yes, so you can get, because you know what, Chewy, that was my first thought when I saw that on wherever you put it, Facebook or whatever, but is it an EV? Because Hummer actually also has an EV now, and I don't hate it. Did you know that Hummer's got an EV? Let me bring it up. And this is, I think, Jerry inspecting it. There it is. So that's an EV. There you go. That's an EV. I mean, it's pretty gaudy and awful, but I'm pretty tacky at the best of times. You know. So that actually, the joke is a Hummer can actually have you can actually have an EV Hummer if you want one.
I'm also a big fan of. And I love wading into the comment sections of whenever they post up one, but conversions of classic cars.
Yep.
So I believe this is an Australian company called Jaunt. They're converting a classic 911 to an EV. All of these are conversions that they've done. They'll take original Land Rover bodies and either completely redo them or leave like the weathering and stuff on them, and make them full EVs with like hundreds and hundreds of kilometers of range, that sort of stuff. So, yeah. Like, the world's changing. Like, it's cool if you like driving your petrol car. It's cool if you like, you know, your classic cars and that sort of thing. But, yeah, it's... And I see the discussion about, you know, hybrids being cheaper than EVs. Like, factor in the maintenance costs and the fuel costs as well, like with batteries. Like, if you're thinking about it, think about how much you realistically drive in a week, what your commute is. Okay, if you're just going backwards and forwards to work and you can plug your car in every night, you can get a clapped out second-hand Leaf with pretty good range for less than 10 grand.
You can.
So, and a lot cheaper. Like, I've seen them go for 5 or 7 or that sort of thing. And if, you know, if you only use 60k a day, you can just do it. Just plug it in at night. You can spend like $1.50 charging it overnight, and it's good to go the next day. You know, it's crazy.
What do you think of that? You like that one?
Yes, I like that style of American pickup truck before they
that's
lost their fucking minds.
That's an EV.
Yep.
So there's what we're talking about.
I would like it if it looked more rusty and had a gun rack in the back.
The patina, where they put the fake patina on it.
Needed the patina. Yeah.
Pretty cool though. 1978 F100, I think it is, full EV.
Yep. Yeah, and I just saw a comment there of like never get a car loan. Usually really good advice. A lot of people, if you own your home, if you've got a mortgage, get a green loan. They're like 0 or 1%.
And you can actually do the numbers. Like if you're in a bigger city and you're traveling 30, 40, 50 Ks to work and back. I mean, I used to do that when I was living in Auckland. You know, if you're doing like 100K round trip, work out what that's costing you in petrol, right? Work out what's that costing you if you're charging at home, for example, and the difference will be significant. And the significant difference can be how you pay it off per week. In other words, you're paying the same, but what you're doing is you're paying off your EV as you're going along. So I don't agree with that. Never get a loan. I think like if it can pay for itself,
the loan works for you.
Yeah, totally. But I haven't done it recently, but I've done the numbers before of someone doing 80 Ks a day to and from work, let alone weekends, and how much that would cost for fuel, how much that would cost in electricity. Oh, look, there's $160 a week difference. So therefore, if I pay $150 a week off of my EV, I'm better off. So just worth thinking about. That's all. Anyway, I think we're done. Feel like we're done. Are we done?
Yeah, I was going to talk about the BYD Wanaka mobile home for my retirement.
I looked at that as well. You can do it if you want. It's in Japan, isn't it? And it's put on the same. I literally saw that online the other day. So I'm with you if you want to have a look with the sliding out shell. BYD is doing.
I'm just trying to find an actual image of it rather than just like a sizzle video.
All right, BYD's doing it's on a very small, I don't know what you call it, platform footprint. It's got a very small footprint. So I think the upper model, the side comes out, and it's a full EV camper vehicle, camper home. What are they called? Camper van. That'll do. I didn't get the gist of what the range was, but it's got to be a few hundred if it's going to be a camper van. You've got to be able to go, a fairly long way. I'm now padding, waiting for you, bro. There's no rush though. Just take your time.
I got it. I'm just going to do the video.
Yeah, cool.
Is it doing it now?
Yeah, there you go.
There we go.
And so it's very small.
Solar panels on the roof. It's a camper van. This is one of the things is you think of camper vans, they're just shit performance, they can't climb hills. All of the things that EVs are much, much better at. But if you took that camping with that setup of solar panels on the roof, you're not reliant on a lot of things there.
I wonder how long that would take to charge. Like would that from 20%? Would that need to be in the sun for a week to fully charge up? Is it over a day? Because you could park that at a camping site for several days. What kind of charge would you get out of it? I wonder.
But yeah, it's something that exists. I mean, apparently it's their hybrid chassis, but it'll be full electric at some point.
So that hybrid chassis will be the one from the Shark, then I assume.
Yeah.
All right. Interesting. All right. I feel like we're waffling a little bit now, Whānau.
Oh, we did, and now we're approaching 2 hours, which we can never give to people.
Oh my gosh, what's wrong with you? That's us for this week, though, team. Obviously, there's always news going on. Bright Hearing News will be with you tomorrow night, I'm sure. Thanks for all the people who joined us this week. It's been a really interesting week, albeit very serious as well in what's been happening around the world. I've got some conversations going on next week. There is some policy being released by the Greens on housing. We are talking to them about having someone come on midweek. We've been talking to the Greens about having either Chloe or Marama or both of them on with one at one time, because that we missed each other at Waitangi, but also Tamitha. I've been talking to Tamitha. Tamitha might come on as well, so they're going to figure out who they've got to come share with us. But there is that. Other than that, there's not much else to say other than everyone have a good weekend. Enjoy the kids tomorrow night on Bright Hearing News, and me and Chewie will be back Monday night. Is it Monday? Monday's public holiday here, isn't it? Is it an anniversary weekend this weekend?
Yeah, it's Targa anniversary. Yep.
Should we take the day off, or do we have to come back and entertain these rednecks?
I vote for time off.
Oh. So Chewy won't be here on Monday night, it would seem, Fano. But I might be. So we'll probably catch up Monday night from 9 p.m. for the next edition of Big Harold News. Okay? Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Is it you that was scared of Harold the giraffe? Am I remembering that correctly?
Not scared. It's just fucking weird when you describe it to anyone not from New Zealand in that particular time period.
I thought it was that.
How did you learn about your bits? From an animated fucking giraffe in a dark bed.
Hardcore porn. That was me, but yeah, that's just me. German stuff.
Like the rich have the hand out for rewards, while the many have to work at what they can't afford, and the rest of us ain't paying attention, or maybe have questions we're too worried to mention. Other media is still dwelling on trivial facts, vetting peas from the rice and the mice from the rats, and picking and choosing a warpath to run, and linking ourselves with the hill to die on. It's gotta come down to a welcoming vibe, with an A and a self and a higher in mind. All heavily neither this way or that, and will be analyzed by what you impact. With the evil in the world trying to mess with your head, and you're sitting on the couch, you're thinking chivalry's dead. Each night, 2 nights, they're gonna sing you to bed. It's big hairy news.
I hadn't realised that before I asked you that question, but a super chat from Pete. Are you doing Otago Anniversary Day? I think we will probably be here. I think that's the likely scenario. I will probably be here. Chewy, questionable. We'll see what
I'm easily bullied, so I might be here as well.
All right, Fano. Catch you Monday. See the kids tomorrow night. Hooroo!
Cheers, fam.